Coming up in this episode, we have... They've got these mannequins of ghouls on the balconies. Oh man, check out this genuine antique diving suit. I had to go here. I'd come all this way on the motorbike. It was going to be tough, but I wanted to do it. I had to do it. And alone.
I made it to Punta Arenas, the southernmost continental town in South America. The winds were just terrible. At some points I was riding like that, a very steep angle, leaning into the wind, back to fourth gear, 45 kilometres an hour was as fast as I could go when I was heading into the wind. With the wind behind me, 140 k's, no problem. But the problem is when you pass something like a truck or a cutting that creates a wind shadow, you really struggle to control the bike. But anyway, I made it here.
Coming into Punta Arenas, it was just getting dark, but a taxi driver called Christian said he knew of a hostel which had parking, so I just followed him. He ended up being the owner of the hostel, and this is the parking spot out the back. Suits me. And guess what? The very next day, the 19th of April, it snowed. I went for a bit of a walk around town. I must say the architecture around here does look very distinguished. And here, as in other parts of Chile, the Mapuche voice is not forgotten. Being so cold and miserable, I couldn't resist going into this Café Irlandés, or Irish cafeteria. And I must say the food they served up was just perfect for a cold day like that. The next day it was sunny and I wasted no time walking the 7 kilometres or so to the Zona Franca, the duty-free zone, because I needed to buy a new video camera. I wasn't able to get a PAL one, but NTSC were in the Americas, so along with a huge auxiliary battery, I should never run out of battery power. And by the way, that big battery cost half as much as the camera itself. Photography and videography are my passion, and it was so good to have the power back in my hands to film street scenes, people doing normal things like this. I think these ladies are municipal council workers, but look how rugged up they are, and I can zoom right in with my new camera. This is a disco called El Templo, or the Temple, but a temple to what? They've got these mannequins of ghouls on the balconies. Yeah, the Sony sure has a good zoom. I can even read the name on that boat. Look how far I can zoom out. Policeman and his dog both rugged up against the cold. Speaking of dogs, I went for a walk down the waterfront and check this guy out. He seems pretty friendly. Getting rid of his fleas, rolling in the sand. Punta Arenas actually means sandy point in Spanish. What a friendly dog. Ciao, amigo. When the sun's out in Punta Arenas, it's a dog's life. I wonder if it was one of these dogs that bit me on my bike when I rode in the other day. Now, what are these rusting things? I think I know what they are. I think they're metal buoys. B-U-O-Y-S, like a navigational hazard warning. This Naval and Maritime Museum was closed for siesta when I walked past, but now it's open. Oh man, check out this genuine antique diving suit. That'll be worth a fair bit, I reckon. I guess those are lead weights to keep them weighed down. What's this? It's a piece of an English Corvette that sank in 1881. It caught fire and the magazine exploded and only 12 people survived and 143 died. Full steam ahead. Makes me feel old when you see these dog and bone telephones in a museum. And microprocessors, they were the height of technology when I was an apprentice electrician. Now they're in a museum. A Siemens Marine radio. Looks pretty well made. Looks like it would still work. This says 1,000-year-old Antarctic ice. Looks like a block of ice here kept below zero, but it does look like it's melted a few times. This is the list of all the early explorers and important expeditions that passed through the Strait of Magellan. It's like a roll of honour. And there's James Cook and La Perouse, two names that have a connection with Australia. Until the Panama Canal opened, the straits were very busy. Given the fog, snow, fierce winds, waves, it comes as no surprise there are so many shipwrecks. In fact, hundreds are marked on this museum handout. And as you can see, the Armadillo and the Ambassador, which I saw in the last episode, are marked here. Though in that case they were run aground intentionally. There's a model of the Nao Victoria Magellan ship, the first known European ship to make it through. And there's the famous Beagle, who went through the Beagle Channel and also went around the world. Speaking of models, how about all these little Catholic saints in a shop window here in Punta Arenas? You see, this is a funeral home, and it says Cruz de Fraude, and you see that cross there? That marks Cabo Fraude, which is the southernmost point of the mainland, and I've always wanted to go there. But when I asked at these travel agents, they said it was too late in the season, but I could get there easily, independently. Cabo Fraude is only about 85 kilometres or 53 miles as the crow flies from Punta Arenas, and you can go a large part of that way by public transport. But the actual point itself is in the extreme far south of Patagonia, wild country, hilly, rocky, isolated from help, and getting very cold at this time of year. You might remember in a previous episode I spoke about how I trekked to the easternmost point and westernmost point of South America for the Australian Geographic magazine. I had to go here. I'd come all this way on the motorbike. It was going to be tough, but I wanted to do it. I had to do it. And alone. Back in the hostel, pinned to the wall, was a story in Spanish about some trekkers who'd made it there and back in only 4 days. It was tough going, but they made it there and back in 4 days. So I jumped on the internet and I found a few stories of how people did it, breaking the trek up into 2 and 3 hour segments where they would have to cross rivers and stop and rest and set up tents and whatnot. The most difficult part of this trek were the rivers that you had to wade through. No bridges, you had to wade through them and you had to do it at low tide. 2 of these rivers, the Rio San Nicolas de Genes and the Rio Nodales, were so deep and so swift flowing you could only attempt it at low tide. And the water was coming off snowy mountains, which means at this time of year it was barely above zero. So I got on the internet and I found a tidal chart, so to try and time my arrival at these 2 rivers to coincide with low tide. I got myself a map and drew my own little sort of stage-by-stage trek with the very conservative, I thought at the time, total trekking time of 5 or 6 days, there and back. The first 2/3 was easy. It was on a bus to the town of San Juan, but there's only one bus a day and it leaves at 7 a.m. from Punta Arenas, and at this time of year, 7 a.m, it's dark. So map in hand, I went out and found the bus stop in the daytime and shot a panorama and marked the bus stop on my GPS. So I would be able to sort of recognise it in the dark when I did leave, which was planned for tomorrow. On the way back, I saw this dog with eerie looking, different coloured eyes. I thought I was all set, but then I was talking to the owner of the hostel, Christian, and he said you have to be careful because sometimes when it rains in the mountains, those rivers flood and you can be stranded there for days in the snow. He advised me to buy a whistle so I could blow the whistle and get the attention of passing fishing boats because there's a lot of fishing going on in that channel. There's all sorts of boats, big ones, small ones. It's a pretty busy channel. So I went and bought this. It was the loudest whistle I could find. It was a referee's whistle. Pretty loud. And then I thought I was all set. I said to Christian, the owner of the hostel, if I'm not back in 7 days, then you can worry about me and send a search party, because other people have done it in 4 days. Given my age and lack of fitness, 7 days should be more than enough. But guess what? That ended up being the worst thing I could have ever said to Christian, as you'll find out in the next episode. That's all for now, amigos. But be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out what's coming up in the next episode.
But I'm very much looking forward to it, except the fact that it's freezing cold outside, and I'm going to be outside for a while.
Oh man, the trees are all blown over because of that storm. I think I might be lost. They're all different trails that go all different ways. Oh, I wonder what this is. Oh. Welcome to the refugio. What the hell is that?